Hello, come in. Thank you for coming on. Why don't you, hello, how are you doing? Thank you for coming on. I wanted just to talk to you and just have a courageous conversation on today. And thank you for coming in. And if you don't mind, share. Thank you for coming in. Thank you so much. Hello, Sydney. How are you doing? I see you there. Thank you for coming on. Come in, come in, come in. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for coming on. Hello, hello. Hey, Dana, how are you doing? Wilhelmina, how are you doing? Hey, Alicia Miller. Shah, how you doing? Awesome. Thank you for coming on. Look, I just wanted to talk just for a few minutes, and if you don't mind, I want you to share this. Hey, Miss Aranda, how are you doing? If you don't mind, I just want you to share this. Um, I just want you to share this. I want to talk because I was looking at the video, and there were some things that quite disturbing. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Once again, if you don't mind, I want you to share this. I want this to reach as many people as possible. I want this to reach as many people as possible. So, um, we have been talking and we've been talking and we've it's been on television about the Jacob Blake shooting. About the Jacob Blake shooting. It has been on television, and I know a lot of people are having some discussions, and so many people are frustrated concerning what has taken place with Mr. Jake shooting. I tell you, when I looked at that, it was so um, it was disheartening. It was disheartening, and the question is of the police tactics that is used that leads up to these points. I'm not law enforcement. I'm not law enforcement at all. And so generally, I like to call people from law enforcement and hear their perspective concerning uh, certain aspects and what would they do, especially in situations like this. And I didn't make no call. I did not make a call because I believe that this incident concerning Mr. Blake, that uh, it was terrifying. But I think what concerns me the most is that law enforcement should use what we call the least severe method of trying to apprehend people. And as they go up, and as somebody behavior becomes more erratic or somebody behavior becomes more volatile, um, and if they feel like their life is threatened or the community life is threatened or the person life is threatened, then they need to take the appropriate measures. I understand that. But the key question here is there was a civil unrest that was going on, and there was a dispute that was going on at the house between two women. And I really believe the question needs to be answered. How did this turn to Jacob Blake? If he was there to de-escalate the situation, and if he was not involved at all with the situation, but was there to de-escalate the situation, for me the question is, like, how did he get involved? And so some of these questions now will never be answered because there were people there that witnessed it, and also law enforcement was there that witnessed it, but there was no body camera. And because we really don't have any type of footage, we will never get some of these answers that we really need. One of the things that camera footage can do, it can show you what took place, right? It can show you what took place. Now you have the people word, their word versus the police officer's word. Now I already know some people are saying that, camera footage does not mean nothing, because when you take a look at Eric Garner and what happened to him at New York, and what took place in New York, there was camera footage, and yet they still let the police officers go. So if you're making that argument, I won't even argue with you. But there's just some things that I need to understand. Like, how did it just escalate so fast? If the altercation was between two women, how did Jacob get involved? That's the bottom line. They said he was there to stop the altercation. He was there to stop the altercation. There are some questions that I have to ask you as we just really, really look at this case. Because I don't want this to be a political case. I don't want this to be a Republican versus a Democrat. But there are some questions I need to ask you. Dylan Roof was a man that shot 9 people in South Carolina. And he went into the church and he shot 9 people. Dylan Roof. And when Dylan Roof came out, they arrested him. But on the way to the precinct, they stopped at Burger King to buy him a hamburger and some French fries. Okay? This is Dylan Roof. Nicholas Cruz is somebody that shot about 17 kids in Florida, in Parkland, Florida. He shot 17 kids. And when they arrested him, he had guns on him and etc. But there was no shooting. There were no shootings. The question I have is, how do you have individuals that do heinous crimes? One of them is treated like a king because they took him to Burger King to eat. The other one, you were able to arrest with no gunshots. How is it that unarmed black men are still being killed? This is the question that I want people to ask themselves. This is the question. And somebody will say, well, Norris, if you take a look at the story, we found out that he was tased. And when he was tased, they said that he kept walking. Okay, you have 3 police officers there. Generally, if you're focused on an individual, you're not even supposed to allow them to go back to their car. Let me ask you something. If he is that dangerous, first of all, and you tased him, like, you have 3 individuals there, why could not anyone stop this young man from going back to his car? I mean, it would have been better than shooting and taking his life? See, these are the questions that I have, because the bottom line is that when we look at these cases, we're looking at the outcome of these cases. But what we really need to start doing is looking at the process. We need to start looking at step A, step B, step C, even to step D. We need to really, really look at the process, because A plus B plus C equals D. There are just some questions that I have. And then the intellectual justification of killing a black man. This is what I call it, intellectual justification. Mr. Crump came up with this terminology. So the first thing we do, we try to smear his name in the street. That's the first thing we do. We bring up his criminal record. We bring up the things of the past. And let me ask you something. If you are law enforcement, your job is to determine if somebody is a threat, a current threat, not a past threat, but a current threat. Are they a current threat? What are they doing now that can threaten themselves, the police officer, and even the neighborhood? You bring up his past to justify actions taken. You know, when police officers do something, we don't know how many incidents or referrals, internal affair report that they have. We don't know any of these things. We cannot bring up their past. We cannot bring up their past conduct. We don't know if they had any DUIs or anything like that that's been leading. We don't know. They're well protected. Now, I know what you're saying is that, Norris, it seems like you're for Mr. Jacob Blake. And I want to tell you, what I'm for is preservation of life. And I think his life could have been saved. The bottom line is that we need to start looking at facts, and we need to start looking at statistics, and we don't need to look at it from a political point of view. The question is, if you are a peace officer, before you take someone's life, did you do everything you can in order to preserve life? Sometimes, let's be honest, sometimes law enforcement, you have to do your job. We understand that. But the question is, in this case, did they do everything before that fatal outcome to intervene? And I'm trying to tell you, they did not. They did not. Let's go back to the intellectual justification. You bring up his record. Then, number two, you said, drop the knife. Once again, there was no weapon or there was no knife. So what was the police officer seeing? What were they seeing? I'm trying to tell you that this is concerning, because you did not shoot him one time, but you shot him 7 times. And from what I understand about law enforcement, is that every bullet you shoot, you have to be accounted for it. First of all, shooting someone in the back is just awful. Okay? And then his kids are in the car. But shooting someone in the back 7 times, that is just not good judgment. Now, I don't know how many police officers shot him. I don't know how many police officers shot him. But I do know everything about this video is disturbing, because this did not have to even go to this point. It did not have to go to this point or get to this point. And so I'm really saddened by what has went on. But this seems to be a continual rehearsal. Despite the pandemic, despite George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, now we have another shooting. And I need to tell you this, that all law enforcement, they're not bad, you guys. There's some good law enforcement, and I believe more than anything right now that when we have good law enforcement, we really need to encourage them. But there's something flawed within the system. Excuse me. There is something flawed within the system when this keeps happening over and over again. When it keeps happening over and over again, you have to say to yourself that this is not normal. You have to say to yourself, well, maybe we have a problem and we need to fix it. They talked about defunding the police. They talk about disbanding the police. I do believe that we need more services out there, social services. I'm not sure if disbanding or defunding the police is the correct way to go. But I just believe, like, de-escalation skills. I'm looking at some of these things that go forth and what's happening, like just de-escalation skill. It seems like there's a power struggle. You know, I work with people that are mentally ill. I work with people that's conduct disorder, oppositional defiant, sometimes autistic, bipolar. And I understand that it can get real escalated in a matter of seconds. But I have to remind myself that I am the professional. That I am the professional, not them. There is a way that I conduct myself. Now, the question is, if this was any child, not just a black child, a white child, a Latino child, would this be right? No. If this was law enforcement, would it be right? No. It would not be right across board. And I really believe that if we're going to start making changes across our nation, then we need to start being concerned for life. Black Lives Matter is not a matter of privilege. It's not a matter of entitlement. It's a matter of equality. It's a matter of equality. I need you guys to listen to me. When you take a look at all the riots that have happened since 1960 in this country for black people, it did not happen because they were oppressed. It did not happen because they couldn't vote. Matter of fact, violence was done to them because they were trying to vote. From about 19, even go to 1930, I believe in Arkansas, that civic unrest happened with black people is because a life was taken and there was nothing done about it. 1930, Dr. Martin Luther King, when his life was taken. And I really believe there is an inherent fear about black men. People fear black men. I was on Facebook and somebody said the only thing they worried about is drinking, dancing, and the next women and the next woman they sleep with. And I got on there and I said, you know what? I'm an African American doctor. And I said, I despise your comment, and it is a very racist comment. And he said he apologized and he wanted to talk to me. He said, because I don't want to be a racist. But see, these are the implicit biases that we have toward black people. And when you have these implicit biases and no one checks you, not all white people are with the Ku Klux Klan. You know, not all Native American people are alcoholics, right? You have good people, and you have some people that are that have behavioral concerns across every race. Now, this is where my heartbeat is. I have a son. I have nephews. And they tell me how they get nervous around police officers. With these images that are continue to run, that are continue to happen, despite it being issues, I do not have anything to tell them about what to do when they see police officers. I tell them to respect authority. But even when they do the right thing, there's still a minor chance that something could happen. And that is just the reality. America will not get better, and we will not have unity in this country until Jacob Blake can be somebody's white son. And you ask the question, if that was my son, would I want that to happen to my son? Would I want that to happen in front of my grandchildren? And when you start asking questions like that, then that's when empathy can start happening and we can have a conversation. But it's more than a conversation. It is, how do we move forward as a community to address these systemic issues? It has to be systemic because it keeps happening. If they can arrest Dylan Roof, if they can arrest Nicholas Cruz, Jacob Blake could have been apprehended, and he did not have to get shot for that to happen. This is not a knock with law enforcement. But I'm asking you, this is my challenge. What if Jacob Blake was your son? Would you be okay? This is how the conversation moves. Someone says, I'm for Black Lives Matter. Another, I'm for Blue Lives Matter. You know what? I'm a black man. I'm for Black Lives Matter. And also, I think law enforcement lives matter. And Martin Luther King said it best. A threat to injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. I just wish that we did not have to take sides. That's what's ruining this country. There is no objective truth. This is not about taking sides. This is about preserving life. This is about us unifying. This is about us coming together. That's what it's about. No one deserves to be treated less than a human being. There's a scripture that says this, and I'm going to leave after this. It says, blessed is the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Do you understand what that means? It says, blessed is the pure in heart, for they shall see God. What that means is that when you have a pure heart, that you can begin to see through the eyes of God. That even if I see a drug addict, because I have a pure heart, I can look at them for what God has called them to be and let them know that they can do better, that they can be better, and that there's greater for them. That even though they've given up on themselves, that I will not give up on you. As long as you got breath in your body, you can make decisions to change your life. And I'm leaving this Facebook and I'm asking you, do you have a pure heart? Are you a Democrat? Or are you a Republican? Or do you just have a pure heart? A heart that is more focused on seeing human beings as God created them. It says, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. You know, if there's a white child without food, I'm going to feed them because that's God's child. If there's a black child that is struggling in school, I'm going to do everything I can because they are the child of God. The pure in heart. And what has happened is that if you're able to look at George Floyd and say that he deserved that because he was a drug addict, then you know what? You don't have a pure heart. What you have is that you have wickedness in your heart. And you need to check your heart. As I leave here today, I pray that you check your heart. I pray that you check your heart. Before we have any type of discussion, I pray you check your heart and see what's in your heart. See what's in your heart. Black lives do matter. Law enforcement lives do matter. All lives matter. And just who I am not going to sway from that stance. But I'll speak up for righteousness. And wherever there's a wrong, I will be there. And I'll be that voice. And so we need to look at this, no matter what color. Today, we're just having to focus on Black lives. It does not negate the rest of life and the the other races and ethnicities. So today, I'm asking you once again to check your heart. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. So I'm done. I am going to go. And let's go over here. I see we have some people that's on, so I'm gonna turn away from the camera. And hello to everybody that's here. I'm great. Hope you're. Let's see here. Gut wrenching to watch. Mars. Yes, it really was. It was very gut wrenching to watch. Sidney Davis, he was just trying to break up the fight between the women. Very true. That's what he was trying to do. Haji Barnes, they said he was going for a gun. Well, that myth has been dispelled. He was not going for a gun. Hopefully, Jacob will be able to give his side of the story someday. Hopefully, he will. Hopefully, will. I don't believe they cared enough to evaluate what was going on. You know, that's a very interesting statement, Dana. I know it's frustrating. I know it's frustrating. You know, I just believe in the good of people, and the bottom line is, where's the communication at with law enforcement? Where's the communication? What is going on? Why, if he's headed to his car and you feel like he's a dangerous suspect, like, why would you let him go to the car? Like, I do not understand that. I still don't understand that, especially if you outnumber somebody. Like, I just don't understand that. So, but I understand what you're saying. And they, okay. Marcia Davis, racists hiding out in police uniforms. Bridget Butler, and 3 kids in the car. So let me, Marcy Davis is a racist hiding out in police uniforms. You know, I know that there's good cops and I know that there's bad cops. And I just think that if we start lumping all the bad cops in with all the good cops, then you become part of the problem. You know, that's what it is with racism and stereotypes. Like, you begin to put these things on other races and your stereotypes or your ideas of people, and then you begin to paintbrush, or you begin to paint a whole community with that stereotype. And once again, I think that's dangerous. That's dangerous. I know that there are cops out there, and I know that there are bad cops, but also I know that there are a lot of good cops. They have great hearts, and I think what we really need to see is we need to start seeing law enforcement with these good hearts. And let's be honest, there are some systemic changes that need to take place within law enforcement. I'm not denying that. That is something that I believe that is very crucial, that change needs to take place in law enforcement. Yeah, the kids will be traumatized forever. They will not look at the police the same. I want to say this: kids are generally resilient, and they are. I'm not saying that this is not going to have an effect on them, because it will. But also, too, it is how adults respond to events like this have a real impact upon children. So I'm not saying, I need you to hear me, I am not saying that the children will not be affected, because they will. But also, their resilience is going to be with the support of the adults and etc. And how they look at police is really going to be initiated by the adults around them. So if you call police pigs and etc., uh, well, that's going to have an effect on them also. So that they may grow up with hatred just predicated on the language that is used around them. So we need to be careful. But yes, they will be traumatized and they need counseling. But kids are resilient. Wilhelmina win. They can't see us. That's why it's easy to kill black people. Yeah. You know, I don't know what that means. So I need clarity on that. See, Haji, they want this to continue sad, but at the same time, you don't see the setup. So you saying it's a setup, Haji. Okay. Well, Marcy Davis says that if bottom line, if any one of us shot a cop at close range 7 times, we would be serving life in prison. You know what? I agree with that. Like, what are the ramifications for this? Now, what are the ramifications? And I totally agree, like, with that they are protected. So, what are the ramifications that would take place? So, thank you, Marcy. That is a great comment. Um, um, let me see who else. So, um, I see Haji. It don't make sense. Why would you do that, knowing you're being recorded right after George Floyd? Really, there's more to it. So Haji believed that there's more to this. I won't say that there's not more to it. I'm just gonna say I'm just gonna say this. I think it is something that really needs to be addressed systemically. Um, like I said, I know a lot of good cops, law enforcement. I got I got family that's law enforcement and in the military. So I'm never going to disrespect the work, and I know their hearts. So I once again, when law enforcement, when they engage, we have to. Or when I'm talking about when they engage, when they do something, there have to be consequences to it. That's just the bottom line. There has to be consequences to it. And we've been talking about systemic racism. You say if they saw us as human legal, they would not treat us like wild animals. The reaction of the police looked like the reaction of an angry, vengeful person. Well, yeah, I mean, he's holding on to his shirt and etc. Like, I'm just not understanding. Like, I'm not understanding the tactics at all. Like, if you're going to be aggressive, be aggressive. Take them down, put them in handcuffs, and do what you're gonna do. Besides letting them get to the, I just didn't understand that. I still don't. It's just amazing to me. He did not have to be shot 7 times, so he did not. Um, Derek Sedbury, the more we talk about it, change will come. They've been saying that for years. Voting no, protect yourself, your family, and your own, and you know how to. Well, my thing is everybody has a right to be protected. I just don't think we need to be go out and be vigilantes. Vigilantes and going out there to insert our own law and justice and take things in our own hands. I do believe in protecting your family. I do believe in protecting your children. And so one of the things for me is that I think that we always need to be vigilant and protective of our families. I think that's everybody across board. The question is for me, especially with dealing with law enforcement, is why does this continue to happen to African American men? And it seems like African American men is the only race that this happens to. Now, my Caucasian brothers and sisters will say, well, more white people get shot more than black people. But we're talking about unarmed. We're talking about unarmed, right? Unarmed people, unarmed people. And so that's just huge. That is just huge. So I think it's very much systemically. And of course, when you're angry, the first thing we do is go to self-preservation. But once again, I think that we cannot be vigilantes. I think that we just have to that we have to make this stance, especially as a community and the people. I don't think it's too late. I don't think it's too late. I think everybody can be protected, and but I do believe that that we need people to stand up for righteousness. Like, do not condone this behavior. If you white, this is where white allies come in. Like, you just can't condone this type of behavior. So things could have taken place, and I felt like they could have been better, or tactics could have been better. So good and bad traits of every race. So thanks, Derek, my brother, for coming on. Not good at my son is tired of all this talk. You know what? Let me talk to Dr. Little. She said, my son is tired of all this talk. I'm tired of talking about it. I'm tired of talking about it. The reason why I continue to talk about it, because I know younger generations is behind me. And so it's my duty. It's my duty to protect them, to talk about it, and etc. That is my duty. And so this is the reason why I hold this conversation. I have nephews. I have young men that I mentor. So, part of talking about it is not to rehearse it, but we have to move into action. And this is the time to move into action. So now we got November, we got voting and etc. We got the voting coming out. Like, this is a huge way. And one of the things is we need to get out and vote. We need to rock the vote. Get out and vote. Okay, get out and vote and listen to people, listen to their policies, and listen to people that's going to hold people accountable. That's huge. Listen to people that's going to hold people accountable. Okay, so yeah, we're all tired of talking about this. Like, once again, I'm tired of talking about it. But I have to continue to have this conversation, and I have to continue to be there for policies so that we can start turning the ship. Now, huge ships, you can't just turn them. You can't just turn them. Like I said, we need some goals. We need some objectives. We need some training. We need some things to go forth and to take place so that we can be in a better place tomorrow. So this is not going to just happen overnight. And I know you guys probably don't want to hear that, but it's the truth. It's not just going to happen overnight. This thing is going to happen because number one, we have people that are dedicated and in it for the long haul. And the question is, there's nothing wrong with marching. I went and marched and protested, but after that, like we have to be in it for the long haul. We just cannot sit there and be like it's over after March. It's not over. This time, it's time to vote. So let's start rocking votes. So you said, not at all. I have two black sons, and this can happen no matter what you teach. And that's true, Sidney Davidson. That's true. That's true. That is very true. And we discussed that. And one of the things is, you know, for me, is my son, I just tell him to get home. That's all I tell him. Get home. And after we get home, we can handle stuff together. But I do not want him fighting. I do not want him talking back. I do not want him trying to talk back to law enforcement and etc. That's man. Just get home. Get home, and after you get home, man, we can talk about it. We can do some things, right? We can do some things. So that is what we want our black men to do. We want them to get home. Bottom line, to get home. And after that, then we can go through some processes. Derek Sedbury, it won't change until legislative reform change. I agree with you, Derek. That's why we need to get out and vote. And we need to vote, and we need to look at who's going for judges, judges, right? We need to look at it, and we need to vote and make sure we putting the right people in office. Think before you react. Think before you react. I agree with that. We need to think before react. That's what we need to tell our young black men. Think before you react. How do we stop it? You know what? Thank you, Bridget, for coming on. That's a very good question. How do we stop it? In my eyes, number one, it really starts in our home, and it starts with us being parents, and it starts with us taking accountability for our children. And so that's number one. Number two is, we need to spend more time with our African American men, and we need to talk to them about how to engage police officers and how to engage police officers. And once again, the thing is about getting home, like machismo and talking back like that. You don't escalate no one. Why would you do that? Right? Just get home. Even if you got to get arrested, right? Even if you got to get arrested, get arrested. We can get you out of jail, but we can't get you out of that graveyard. Get arrested, do what needs to happen, and then let's go through that process. Let's go through that process. I think that's key, and I think that's essential. But from the other end is it has to be some type of police reform, as Derek Sedbury said, and not just police reform, police training. Like I don't know what type of training that you can do when somebody shoots somebody in the back 7 times. To me, that's not even. What type of training is that? Because I'm pretty sure that tactically, if you look at those law enforcement, I'm pretty sure that what they're saying is, you guys didn't comply. You couldn't. If there's 3 people there, he's going back to their car. Come on. So I'm pretty sure something went awry. Something was not right. Because he should have never went back to his car if they felt like he was that dangerous. Bottom line. So, but it has to start off with systematic changes, and it also have to be some type of training or something. and holding people accountable. You got to hold them accountable. We need to worry about our Sawyer as well. Norris Dupree Jr. for mayor next election. You got this one, love. Oh no, I'm not running for no political office, but I greatly appreciate it. Appreciate the vote of confidence. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. God bless you. God bless you, Prophet. Thank you for coming on. No one deserved to be treated less than a human being. And I'm going to end with that. Yes, sir. Having a pure heart will help people to see through the eyes of God. Yeah, I really believe that. I really believe that. That's why the Bible said, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." Because when you have a pure heart, you see people, you see how God called people. Even if people are down in the dumps, you still see the God in them because you have a pure heart. And I really believe that's what we need to get back to. Look, thank you guys for coming on. I mean, it's been a it's been a blessing. Uh, Let me see. Derek said, not all of us have the luxury of a smart father to teach them early about being black in America. Yup. And we need to step up. We need to step up. And we got to step up. That's very true. Okay? It's very true. Look, don't think I'm not mad. I'm very upset. I'm very upset. You know, but I cannot just take it out on a group of people because of what one person has done. And I recognize it's systemically. Like there's something systemic that has happened and taken place. And look, this has been going on since the early 1930s. Well, 1900s, really. It's been going on since the early 1900s. So, especially for us to be rehearsing this over and over again, to me, it just says something that systemic changes have to happen. So once again, we need to get out and vote. Get out and vote for this election. Look, there's a few things I got coming up. I got some people. We will be interviewing people that are running for office. So I want you to when I come on, I want you to look for the people that I'll be interviewing that is running for office. So I'm really, really excited for that. I want you to check out. We just had a great interview with Dr. Kristen McNeil. Go to my page, look at that interview. It was a great interview. I felt like she answered the questions. And so you can agree to disagree, but I want you to go look at that interview. So once again, I want to thank you for coming on. Be looking for my interviews with people that are running for office here very, very soon. So we're going to start that. So once again, Dr. Dupree, thank you for watching. Have a blessed day, and thank you for tuning in to Courageous Conversation.